In today's discussion, we are going to talk about sex. There is a very dense reality on this planet when it comes to sex. I'm sure you are aware of it. Last night, I went to a comedy event and went with my mother. And after 5 minutes, we walked out. There was a young man, and he was 22, and his whole comedy skit performance was about him going down, him having sex with an older woman, and the older woman wanting to be wanting to call him by her son's name. A weird thing about somebody, would you do a 12-year-old? And the joke was no, because she's big. It was like, I don't even want to like go into it because it was really awful. But the one thing that was like, nope, walk out, was he mentioned about his ex-girlfriend and how he was scrolling through her Instagram and he saw a recent post about, he said it was a picture of a flower, and basically the post was about how she was wanting to commit suicide. And his response to that, there was like a long pause. His response was, I won. After that, I looked at my mother and we were like, let's get out of here. And we stayed for a little bit longer for the other guy's skit, and that was really bad. We were like in the front row, so he started talking about some girl named Brian that he kept thinking that she was a man. So when he would literally be doing thrusting motions in front of us about him, doing this girl named Brian, and that he thought that it was a man. And then he was talking about his dad having like doing heroin and having a belt and whipping his mother, and then he wouldn't know if he was gonna whip his mother or put it around his arm to do heroin. I was just like, woo! We got out. And I kind of glad I went to that event and I saw that, because I got to see into a very dense reality on planet Earth regarding sex. So I want you guys, okay, for women and men. Women, you have the golden goose egg. Okay, that's what I want you to visualize, okay? Regardless of where you've been, if you've had a sex addiction, wherever you've been, we're all trying to balance out the sex on this planet. So wherever you've been, come as you are, okay? Don't feel embarrassed, because we've all been there, done that in multiple incarnations. We've been trying our best to balance out the sexual distortion that is really heavy on this planet. So women, you have the golden goose egg, okay? And men, you have the seed of nobility. Okay? So with men, it's both men and women, we're dealing with sexual distortion. With men, it is about conquering, okay? And that comes all the way from the whole ancient gladiator culture, the Roman times, where men have been programmed to conquer and almost enslave women, okay? We say like sexually. So what that looks like is, that's an imbalance, by the way. That's not natural. Okay, when men are very sexually imbalanced, they have to like conquer, meaning it's very compulsive and it's very impulsive. And that's kind of what it is, to the conquering of needing to think about it. In the ancient times, we say even the monarch times, what were men mostly doing? They were trying to dominate. They were trying to get as much territory as they possibly could. Okay, and they were fighting each other over how much I have. So of course that would go into the sex reality, where men it's an imbalance. It's an animal imbalance, because we all have an animal self. Okay, it's an animal imbalance where men need to seek out, okay, as much sexual pleasure as they can to claim their sexual dominance or something like that. Okay, so again, when we think of these monarch times of needing to conquer us as much land, a lot of the whole behavior behind that was very compulsive. It was very impulsive. Okay, it wasn't, a lot of times it wasn't really thought out, and a lot of times war was based off of just irritation, not actually on like practical reasons why we should be going to war with this neighboring, you can say, neighboring territory. A lot of it was like just agitation. I'm irritated by you, so I'm just gonna take you out. Okay, and the same thing with that dense sex culture that I've mentioned. Okay, I just gave you a little snippet of the mindset in that dense sex culture. A lot of we call it like throwing it away. Okay, that's one thing that comes up, like throwing it away. When people are ghosting, they're throwing people away. Okay, and it's it's an imbalance. Okay, it's an imbalance within us all. Okay, and when we start to view our seed as nobility, we're gonna start to recognize the courage that is sex. So intimacy without nobility and without the golden, what do you call that? The golden goose egg. It doesn't really, it gives you that pleasure, that animal pleasure, but it doesn't give you that mind, body, and spirit full awakening. And you don't need to have intercourse to actually have that. So right now on the planet, since we're all overwhelmed by this technology age, we are yearning so much to just get some good feeling going on. So I'm seeing a lot of people having a lot of this, I call it miscellaneous sex, is because we want so bad to feel good in our body. But all of that, you can say, wanting to feel good in the body has to do with a mind, body, and spirit alignment. It has to do with prosperity. We want to be prosperous. And sex is, in the dense reality, it is a mop and a bucket. It is just pounding it out to get a good pleasure. But at the end of the day, do we feel more prosperous? No. Actually, for a lot of men, they feel more drained, because the sex is actually you're giving your seed to women. Okay, so I've seen a lot of men, and they're very sexually drained. And when men are very sexually drained, their creativity is drained, and then therefore their intelligence is drained. So I've seen a lot of men who've had a lot of a lot of them look stupid. Okay, something about having too much miscellaneous sex makes them like stupid or something. Okay, so your seed has to do with your creativity. It has to do with your intelligence. It really does. The seed of nobility. It's your courage. And the one thing about man, and the great nobility for man, is to conquer the sex of him. That's the greatest sort of nobility a man can have. Because a man who can't conquer his sex, he can't conquer his impulse, he can't conquer his compulsiveness. If he can't conquer his sex. And when he can't conquer his sex, he cannot reach higher levels of prosperity. I don't care if you're already at that $1 million status or $1 billion status. You have to have the seed of nobility to sustain and maintain it. So once you start to feel like sexually drained, and those lower chakras start to become impotent, as a lot of men I see, their lower chakras are impotent, then you start to lose the creative edge. You start to lose the intellectual edge. You start to lose the intuitive edge, because every sort of whatever facility that you're trying to hold on this planet, whatever it is, like $1 million or $1 billion, you have to hold it. And how you hold it is you have an edge. Just like any major company, either it's like a, oil company that's like, billions of the billions in, Saudi Arabia, or it's just like a little sort of, some sort of, app that you have. There always is an edge to everything. And a part of that edge, it's an intellectual edge, it's a creative edge, it's a potency that is able to kind of bring that together. Okay? So when I see men who, a lot of these men are very frustrated in too. Okay? Because as men, when our sex is just untamed, we are untamed, because sex is the beast of man. Let's just be honest. Sex is the beast of man. And when he can kind of, control it, like you're on a chariot and you got to control the horses or they're just going to go, barbarian. Okay, and then you're going to get knocked off the chariot. If a man can really kind of lasso in, he can actually experience more productive, more potent, and more impactful sexual experience. A lot of men think that, I can just kind of keep it uncontrolled and just keep it like, just like horses on the chariot that should not be on the chariot because they're not trained to actually lead the chariot. So they're just, going crazy and they're all agitated by each other and frustrated. They don't know what they're doing. Okay, that actually is, in the long haul, that experience is actually, it is not impactful, and it is, for men particularly, it doesn't really go anywhere. Okay, so part of man, okay, and the great maturity of man that we're trying, to get on this planet at this time, because, we've had the relationship between man and woman very, can say there's been a lot of tension between that, and it's just now coming up to the surface because we need to work through it if we're really going to move into you could say a new paradigm of consciousness and relationship with ourselves and with the opposite sex and with community and with ingenuity and creativity and institution and education. It really all starts, again, with our relationship with ourself. And sex is one thing that is on everybody's mind. It's the two things that Yogi Bhajan has mentioned are the ones that are really like prevalent above all things in people's lives is sex and money. And sex and money sums up to prosperity. So when you have the golden goose egg as a woman, okay, your golden goose egg is you can say your money, which is about your giving and receiving, your exchange, reciprocity, and also about your creativity, which is how fertile you are as a woman. How much healing energy are you moving through your channels? And when we see the noble seed of man, that's very much about nobility. Has to do, again, with your giving and receiving and how much integrity you have behind that. Okay, and the seed has to do with how much intelligence are you cultivating. Okay, a seed, think of it in not so ancient times, it's still going on right now on this planet. It's like the more seeds you have, the more abundant you are, because the more you can grow. So think of it as a man, that the more intelligence that you're cultivating behind your sex, behind your money, is the more abundant of an experience you can have, and the more abundant of a relationship you can maintain. So as men and women, we don't just want some shallow experience that doesn't go anywhere and that just leads to tension and then agitation. That's very unfulfilling, and it's very exhausting to participate in that. So what we want is we want to have all the seeds together. We want to have as much intelligence as we can as a man, so that we have more abundance within our sexual experience. It's more abundant, it feels more prosperous, and the relationship with ourselves and with that person feels more abundant. It feels more prosperous. Okay, so I wanted to kind of give you all this sort of, reprogram, we can say, or, we're reparenting this whole, this sex culture that we have on this planet, because for a lot of people, this whole tension that we are creating with each other based off of this impulsive and compulsive sex that we have, both men and women, we're beginning to discover that we, both men and women, we lose overall our self-worth. And that's what, and if anything, your golden goose as a woman is your self-worth. And you just, when you are participating in this impulsive, compulsive, you could say submissive sex, where you're allowing a man to just do whatever he wants kind of thing, okay, you're dumbing yourself down to a man's level. And a man who is, again, his animal is not tamed, I bet that man is not very intelligent. Because again, for a man to really evolve and mature into his emotional body, he has to get tamed, that sexual body. Okay? And as long as that sexual body is, untamed and just compulsive and impulsive, he's going to be that. And there's going to be no intelligence behind his decisions, behind his actions. It's just going to be miscellaneous. It's not going to make sense. It's going to be kind of like stupid. And I've seen these kinds of people. And what is stupid? Stupid is just you're a victim of your own body. You're a victim to your own mind. And therefore you have no control. And then you feel like you have no control. And you're just completely you're a victim to it. I'm a victim to, I'm a man. I need to get the sex. I'm a victim to my sex. I'm a victim to my, constantly watching pornography or whatever it is. Okay? So, but that's very stupid, by the way. That's a very, very, I don't, Yogi Bhajan would use that word, okay? But he would, and I'm using that word to really, put it, very clear about if we're a woman and we're, first of all, relationship with a man who has uncontrollable sex stuff, that is not a relationship with a man. A relationship a woman has with a man is with his heart. And a relationship a man has with a woman is with her heart. That's when we feel safe, and that's when we can have intimacy. Without feeling safe as a woman and as a man, for a man, he has to trust himself to make the right decision, to make the right action, because that's what nobility is. Nobility is I trust myself. Either you're noble, you were in the Civil War, you're the general, you have to trust yourself. And that's why people trust you, because you trust yourself to make the right action, the right decision. And that's what a man needs. He needs to trust himself. And that comes with age, and that comes with maturity. And a part of a man, the first step to truly trusting himself is to trust himself when it comes to sex, to make the right decision, the right action when it comes to sex. Okay? Sex that is actually going to bring about corrective and constructive relationship experience rather than destructive and then, sort of agitation and that, leading into to more tension, okay? And that's how a man can really step up as what is he? What has he been throughout time? We talk about even like the Civil War, okay? Has been a protector, has been a guardian, okay? And in the times of the nobility of man, even in the mythology of the noble man, is all about protecting and guarding you can say even the true nature of humankind and the spiritual evolution of humankind and the prosperity of humankind, the justice of humankind, the balance of humankind. Well, we have, as women, with our, our golden goose egg, we have our little golden goose egg in our womb, okay? We have been the creative, we have been the creative explosion on this planet. And we are the leading, say, energy, the feminine energy, okay, not just women, but feminine energy is the leading energy behind philosophy, leading into moral reason and ethics and justice and laws and government and the organization behind a government that brings justice to the people. Okay, we talk about art, the explosion of art. We talk about the explosion in music. Okay, all of that, when we think of this planet Earth, usually in the beauty of Earth, we think of usually music, okay, and we think of art. Okay, we also think of the beauty of science and how that's able to connect us to like animals, like orcas. Because we have science, we actually have a deeper admiration for like orcas. For example, in the scientific discovery that you could say an orca has a greater capacity to feel than human. Like they have that, it's like a greater, I don't know if it's, I don't know, it's like a greater part in the brain. It's a bigger part in the brain. I don't know what part it is. It's bigger than the human part. Okay, and it showcases how, wow, these beings actually might even have a deeper spiritual sensitivity than us humans, and that's very eye-opening, right? So it gives you a deeper love and an appreciation for that because of science. So feminine, the energy, we talk about that yin energy, is very much that leading force that brought about even like Shinto shrines and Tai Chi and Qi Gong and tea ceremonies, and we could say Buddhism, we could say Hinduism, and we can say the beautiful Hindu dances and ceremonies and weddings, and it's that feminine energy that brings about all of this life. You know, we talk about woman is the life. Your golden goose egg is life. Well, the noble seed of man is just what it is, nobility. It's about protecting and guarding the true nature of humankind, because we do get off. We get off. Let's be honest. We get very imbalanced, and we're always imbalanced, okay? There's always a crisis, and we're always trying to self-correct it. And a part of self-correcting, just like the general who's, in the Civil War, he has to be very intelligent in his ability to self-correct a situation. And the greater ability, the greater ability he has at self-correcting a situation, it makes him the most prosperous general, we could say. So again, with that man being that general, is because he trusts himself. That's why he is a general, because he trusts himself and people trust him. If a man does not trust himself, people do not really trust him, because people can sense like you don't know how to self-correct, or to self-correct a situation. Therefore I don't trust you. And even as women, what we want is what nature wants. As if I was the feminine energy in nature, you could say, we want to be safe. As we continue to have this creative explosion move through us, we want to know that there's nobility that has our back. Because without nobility, if the nobility doesn't have our back, oh my Lord, we're just constantly going to feel the imbalances destroying us. As a woman, in our culture, raising our kids, in our community, and without feeling like that safety, as a woman, we cannot really raise our children as we could. Okay, as we could. So when man is, again, that impulsive, compulsive, just sex, okay, he does not really have a sense of purpose. And I've seen men like this. They think their purpose is just to continue to do that and money. But then they always end up still not really going anywhere with their money situation or with their, their sex situation. Just is more agitation and their money, okay, because they're not intelligent about their money, okay. I mean, they're, I don't know what they're doing with it, or they're not intelligent about their sexual, their seed, and they're, having these sort of situations with, children. They're not very intelligent about that. And what happens is these, these men, they are, I like to see, kind of stupefied by the situation that they're in. Like, oh my gosh, I do not know how to self-correct the situation that I've got myself in. So with nobility of man is when he begins to step up, okay, out of the victim of my whole, I'm a man, I need to, get my rocks off, okay. No man needs to get his rocks off. Men are very physical, but just getting your rocks off is what it is. You're just getting rocks. You don't just want, who wants just rocks, like, no, I want the beauty of the universe pouring through my body, and the whole emergence with the beauty of the universe is what I really want. That's what men really want with a woman. It's just they cannot have that because there's, no woman is going to offer the beauty of the universe to a man who's just completely an untamed, compulsive, impulsive, stupid man. You know what I'm saying? So with man and like self-correcting, it's really starting to balance out that sexual energy and move that sexual energy more into protection and guardianship. When I see men who are very, you can just see it in their whole lower energy, their whole lower body, is that they have a stance of protection and guardianship. And usually the partner that they have, or the woman, the family, usually that family is very very steady. Okay, again, when a man is really, when his lower body is standing for something, okay, standing for, protect my home, the guardianship, using that sexual energy to really be constructive and to, trust myself like that general, so that I can make the best decision, the best action that can really bring about the best outcome for all involved, like all my troops. Usually you could say the troops, or, if you're a man in a family, feel very much safe enough to really come forward in an even greater way. And I think as women in a relationship, we want to come forward in a greater way. We don't just want to come forward as like, this sexual, succubus or whatever it is. I'm talking about a dense reality on this planet Earth. We want to come as greater. Like, let's be honest, women, we want with a man, we, especially, a man who is really, in that nobility, we want to offer the beauty of the universe. We want to experience that. It's kind of like we have that golden goose inside of us. It's our precious thing. It's a precious thing about us. And we want to share that, okay? Because as women, we are just natural givers. We're natural share. We love to share. Women love to share. But as men, need to recognize if they don't feel safe, they're not going to really share in a greater experience. And you're not going to have a greater experience with them because they don't really trust you, because you don't really trust yourself. Okay, and that's something that with men they can develop over time. But depending how imbalanced you are, it depends on how much discipline you need. So some people are their impulse and compulsiveness is it's all over the place. Okay, because let's say their childhood and they got, the childhood situation was very very imbalanced. All that means is that you just have to have more thorough training and you just have to have a deeper discipline. Because that's with men. Like, men, I like to see men, boys particularly, men, they need that discipline, because discipline turns human into a noble human. So even any practice, there's a lot of like Kundalini yoga with Yogi Bhajan, or even just the monks up in, like I said, the Himalayas, or even just sitting for 8 hours meditating if you're like a Buddhist. Discipline, okay, through recitation of a higher intelligent force makes somebody noble. For example, in like it doesn't even have to be some Buddhism. It could be just like we're in the Civil War and we're training and we keep doing the same. We're repeating the same sort of tactic. Even in football, we repeat the same sort of tactic again and again and again and again and again and again. We discipline ourselves to know this higher move, this wiser move, this intelligent move, so that we become noble to it. So that when we are presented with a situation, either in football, either the Civil War, or even you could say if there's some sort of aggression in a country that the Buddhists kind of come forward to remedy, we have disciplined ourselves to trust ourselves and to trust whatever intelligent corrective action that we've really instilled in us, that we just naturally step up as noble. And that brings prosperity. It does. In the football, you trust yourself so much, you make that corrective action and you win. Okay? Or you make a quantum leap in some sort of, in maturity or progress. Or in the Civil War, you have progress. Either it's a Buddhism, you have some sort of breakthrough and you have some sort of progress. I think that's what we all want. We want to experience the progress of ourself. We don't want to just hang out and just, as women, low self-worth, where we're just allowing a man's compulsive behavior to just sort of, imbalance our lives. We want to speak to a man's heart, and we want a man's heart to speak to us. And particularly for men, since they're denser, like we say women mature before men, that's kind of true, because men are denser. They're denser in the way that they are more physical, so that means that they need more strength and more discipline to really balance themselves, especially their sex energy, and really rise into the heart. They're denser. So some men don't really get that sense of balance or find their footing until they're like in their mid-30s or even in their 40s. That's when they start to seek usually relationships that are not sexual but are about intimacy, because they've come to this conclusion, or you can say that just compulsive, impulsive sex that isn't corrective action, that isn't constructive, or that isn't creative in the way that I trust myself and my woman feels safe with me, it doesn't really create a prosperous relationship. Okay? We know sex can bring a lot of agitation and a lot of frustration to a woman and to a man. We know this. So, in a man, you can say disciplining himself to trust himself overall, just to trust himself through time and experience. Okay, he evolves and matures to become more heartfelt. Okay, and When a man is more heartfelt, he is more about creating a safe environment, okay, for a woman, for her to show up as she is intended to show up. She's not intended to show up as, some sort of, succubus or sex, what do you call this? Sex, I don't know what it is called, but to show up as the golden egg. Every man, they want, especially in the mid 30s, 40s, they want the golden goose egg, Because what does that mean? That means the wealth of the universe. I want that wisdom. I want that experience with the wealth of the universe, because that's what's going to bring me mind, body, and soul fulfillment. Okay? So, and with women, what our sort of mission, you can say, for ourselves, even at as a young age, again, we mature, you could say, faster than men, okay? And usually because we're not as dense, okay? We all have a deeper connection to our intuition. That's just who we are. We're naturally more intuitive. And with that intuition, we are, again, with intuition, we're more self-correcting in relationships with women. You the right place at the right time, say the right thing. We know how to care, share, and include people, because we were more intuitive. We're driven by that intuition to bring balance and harmony to ourselves, to our friends, and just to our community. But for us, it's about self-worth. At the end of the day, women, it's about really knowing your self-worth. Men, it's about trusting yourself like a general, so that people can trust you, so that your team can trust you. And nobody will trust you as long as you're stupid, because you're impulsive and compulsive and leading your troop into destruction. Okay, no one will follow you. Okay, so developing that level of nobility where you can start to be intelligent and have you can start to have instinct as a man, instinct about what is going to bring the best out of me and what is going to bring the worst out of me, what's going to bring the best out of my team and what's going to bring the worst out of my team, and getting and really creating that sort of intelligent knowledge about that. Now, with women, our self-worth is how we feel beautiful, and self-worth is, I'd say, most important for little girls growing up to be young women. It's most important because little girls who are told, you can say, by their parents that they are worthy of the wealth of the universe, usually grow up to be young women who are very much on the pursuit to really experience the wealth of the universe. And when we as women are wanting to experience the wealth of the universe, we are more likely to really hold ourselves strong for a partner who has the nobility to bring us the wealth of the universe on his chariot. Okay, it's kind of like the ancient mythologies, we can say, of a man on his chariot. That's why we get this. We get it from ancient mythologies that are here. That is, reality. Okay, stories of a man on his chariot, representing a man and his nobility, able to offer her the wealth of the universe. And what that, it's not so much as I'm gonna, people nowadays, an American, lens is about a man who just offers me a bunch of money. No, because a man can offer you money, but if he's imbalanced, it's like, oh my gosh, like this, I don't even like this dude. That represents the man on his chariot, okay, like Krishna on his chariot, kind of riding towards Radha, who is sitting there playing her, her flute and dancing with her women, her goddesses, is more so about him stepping forward as, okay, I got it taken care of. I can take care of it. I can take care of it. I've taken care of the battle. I brought prosperity to my troops, even if we didn't win. I brought prosperity because my troops they became more wise because of our decisions that we've made, not less wise and more fearful. They became more intelligent and clear-headed because of the stance that we've had in our life. So it's more so about with women, and we want the wealth of the universe, right? And art and music and just things that are what we consider lovely, like nature and tea and kundalini and just the yoga and reading to our children and going on nature walks and the beach. It is women. The wealth of the universe is more natural than superficial. Okay. It's more about us really wanting to step into like spirituality with ourselves. Because the more as we start to feel more spiritual and wise as a woman, like a high priestess, the more we start to feel fulfilled. Because that's who we're intended to be as women. All of us are intended to carry the wisdom of many, many generations, and it's meant to flow through us to basically give to the next generation. So that's what our greatest fulfillment is, to be able to have that level of wisdom to share with the next generation, just to keep the generations balanced and to keep them wise enough to be able to have the intuition, the foresight, and the insight on how to keep humanity out of the destructive timeline. Okay, that's as women. That's kind of like when we are really in that high priestess energy, we actually have so much of a influence on this planet. We can actually, if we're on a negative, destructive timeline, we actually have it within us to self-correct it and bring a generation into its prosperity and not its poverty and victimhood and oppression and stuff like that. But with us and in partnership with a man particularly, again, we cannot entirely really go deep. Okay, think about it. We cannot entirely go deep within ourselves if we do not feel that there is a place for us to balance ourselves. So that's why we go to yoga studios, or that's why, even in crises times that are still on this planet, we go to community as women all the time, countless times. And when there's a crisis or when there's a war or when there's just something going on, we always go to community to find a place where we can feel safe enough to really develop that spiritual connection, that intuition. Because without that women intuition, we would not have the strength to keep going and fight for humankind. We would not have the strength. We would not believe in humankind. We would just be like, I don't really care. Let's just like let it, just die kind of thing. Women and their love and their beauty for humanity and the life that they live and the life that their kids live, that gives us the man energy, the yang energy, the courage to want to preserve and cherish humankind. And we know that as women, and we have that's the high self-worth of humankind. We actually need to have even higher self-worth than man, because man has, again, ego, and we have ego too as women, but man have especially on this time period, have an even stronger ego, control sort of thing. So when we have high self-worth, you can say even more so than a man, we actually challenge a man's ego. Okay, we can actually not break it down, but we can reform a man's ego from, control and, authority, dictator, that's immovable, that's fixed, that's very set minded, a lot of, set in this judgment of himself, okay, in my position. We can really reform that into not just a dictator, not just some authority guy who, controls the land, but an actual ego of leadership that actually can lead the land into prosperity. Because just because you own land, ask the question. If you have your territory, okay, but look at your look at your community, okay. Are they prosperous, or are they just like hungry for bread? You need to ask that. And that's a leader asks that. A dictator, authority doesn't care as long as the people do what I say when I say. I don't care if they have no bread on the table, no soup in the coop, no soup in the pot, as long as, okay, but the prosperity of the people makes them strong. The poverty of the people makes them weak. So they may show up and, do their business, tend to the fields, the crops, give you, the grain or the wheat for your, city state. But if they're not prosperous, it's not going to be as great as a community that feels prosperous, because then the community will be creative, and then the community will far surpass the intelligence of a community of people who have no bread on the table and are constantly worried about, I need soup for the pot for my family. So with women, when we have high self-worth, this has been seen throughout time in these sort of lineages of this monarch culture. When our self-worth is higher than a man's ego, okay, we actually can reform a man's ego into a leader who has the intelligence to see that, okay, a team that feels prosperous is a team that's more creative and therefore more efficient. A team that is in there, is not as effective, okay, in the bigger scheme of, the life, we could say. So with women, again, self-worth, how we practice that is a lot of times through boundaries. I would say we practice self-worth through boundaries, okay, because until we start to feel very confident in our own sense of like dignity, okay, we have to have boundaries, because things are not as they seem on this planet, okay? And when we have boundaries, we also have a level of discernment, because we are the beauty, okay? We are the beauty of the universe. And that beauty, that golden goose egg, is not something that is just freely given, okay? It's something that's earned. And that's one thing, when you have a very high self-worth, you understand, to offer this golden goose to a man, he has to earn it. And when a man really wants to step up and be heart-centered, and to really, rise into a more intimate and fulfilling emotional experience on planet Earth, that's what he's looking for. He wants to earn a woman's trust, just like a general doesn't expect the soldiers to just trust him and they don't even know him. They understand, they have to earn, or, I have to earn their trust. So what that looks like with a woman is that we are just very clear, and be very honest. That's a level of like self-worth, is you're honest about what you want and what you don't want. Okay, and the more honest you are, especially as a woman, the more you can actually cut through and get what you want. The more that you are not being honest with yourself, you're allowing a man to kind of tell him what he wants, and then you become that, the longer the road is to actually getting what you want. Okay, so it's just being honest and really looking at, even like really mapping it out within your space, what I want, and really claim it and proclaim it to the universe. Because when you do that, you are telling the universe that I am worthy. And the universe loves it when it hears that from woman, I am worthy. Because when the universe hears that I am worthy, the universe just rings bells upon this planet Earth. Rings bells on this planet Earth. Because when a woman feels truly worthy, and when she really understands it, particularly, I mean, a man as well, but when a woman especially, they know, the universe knows that whatever generation comes through that woman will be a prosperous generation. Because she has it within herself to cut through the imbalances, to cut through the nonsense, to cut through just the randomness that we allow into our life and it goes nowhere. Okay, that she has it. She has the bravery, the boldness to cut through, to get what she wants. And that kind of woman that can cut through to get what she wants, whoo, that's a woman who will do what it takes to raise her children to step up. To step up in their actions, their decisions, to step up for whatever it is they want, to step up to honor and defend themselves, step up to care for themselves, step up to take responsibility for themselves. And there's nothing more magnetic on this planet, we could say, than a generation that is very self-responsible for themselves, because that generation is usually people who are self-mastery, and that the universe is like this angels, they sing. I don't know, the angels sing when there's generation that comes through that is really taking the roughness by the balls and saying no more of this. That is the most amazing, just grab that whatever stuff, randomness, just excess, just ties, and just, I don't know what we do. Grab it by the balls. Like a generation finally grabs it by the balls and says, no more. And actually has the self-responsibility to do what they say. So many people are grabbing it by the balls and say, I'm no more of this. But they don't have the self-responsibility to actually do something about it. Meaning like, okay, I'm a man. I'm tired of having these agitating, tense sexual experiences with women. I'm gonna grab it by the balls, my own balls, and I would say, no more, okay, no more. And a man who actually is gonna follow through on that is usually a man who is willing to, be self-responsible for his actions and decisions, have a life review, basically. Not in a place of judgment or going to the Catholic church and I'm a sinner and I'm going to be sinner and shame on me and shame on everything that I've done. No, it's just a life review of, just like any general or any, like you say, football coach. How can I improve? How can I take what I am, okay, wherever I am, whatever state, it can be the low of the low. How can I take where I am and how can I push it? Like pushing your energy out into the universe. How can I push myself towards mastery, towards sexual self-mastery, emotional self-mastery, psychological self-mastery, whatever it is that's challenging you, okay, whatever it is that you feel like is imbalanced about you, that's causing a lot of just tensions and agitations in your life. It could even be the elements, like you have a lot of fire, a lot of earth, a lot of water, or, a lot of air, and that's really showing up in your relationship and causing a little bit of maybe an imbalance within yourself and then in the relationship, in the way you respond and the way you express yourself. That is basically saying to you where you need self-mastering. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people need self-mastery in sex, because let's say they have a lot of a lot of fire. Usually people have a lot of that fire in them, have a lot of sex drive. Or it could be emotional. Let's say you have a lot of like grief, and it's making you imbalanced, and it's making you feel like just isolated, and you feeling a lot of just overwhelming emotions that are just all too high. That's where you need master. It could be psychological, like you're having a very heavy limiting belief that's preventing you from doing what it is that you really want to be doing. That's a self-mastery. Or it could even be physical, like you have some sort of physical trauma that you may be harboring. That's just self-mastery, to work through it. Okay, the best you can. Okay, the best you can. And regardless, the angels sing when you do the best you can, to because the angels know this planet is very, especially this time, it is not easy. It is not easy. Okay, it's not easy, because right now we actually have the freedom that we especially as women, we haven't had in any other generation. Just these two generations, mine and my mother's, that we actually start to have a little freedom to breathe and not have society and ideology like hovering over us, like, what are you doing kind of thing. We had that in the age of like the housewife, my grandmother's age, where men were like kind of hovering over us, like, what are you doing? Now we can actually like, whoo, I can actually kind of breathe and like really start to think for myself and not have to think for a patriarchal society. I can actually think for myself as a woman and think about what is it to be a woman? How is it different from a man? Like, what is an independent woman? What is an interdependent woman? What is a strong woman? A beautiful woman? Now we're starting to really have the freedom to contemplate upon these things. And we're contemplating because we as women, we're about to create a new philosophy on this planet. And the feminine energy, the yin energy, okay, that's in man and women. And it's starting in the home with women. It's starting in the home with women just contemplating. And that is going to lead to a new philosophy on this planet in the way that we view self-worth. And this philosophy is going to be different from like the matriarchal times, where women was like the goddess and she was like the queen and like bow down to me because I am the high almighty spiritual divine force that is most high. We're gonna take that down a little notch, okay, in the matriarchal times, and we're gonna start to now. Our time on this planet is about relating to each other in a two-way street, in a balanced way, where man is not the king and woman is her sort of sex slave to procreate with, okay, or women is not this high priestess and man is her servant. Okay, no. In this particular moving forward, we're going to have more of about relationship. It's going to be about man is the star of courage, woman is the beauty of the universe. And what does that look like in collaboration, where both man and women are on a two-way street, they're on an even playing field. So we're creating that philosophy now, and it is starting with women really raising their self-worth, because as long as women have such low self-worth, men will never really be able to, their ego will never be challenged. And as long as a man's ego is never challenged by the woman's prosperous, beautiful mind and her beautiful spirit and her beautiful body and just like he is never really going to come into a wise sort of leader. He's always just going to be a control. a control force, but never a wise leader. That's something different. You see so many men that are very good at controlling a business and making people do what they want to do, what I say, and, very good at, like, control. But a wise leadership is something else a lot of men have not experienced. Have not. They don't know what that looks like. They don't know how do I do that? What is that? I don't even know, like, where to even begin. What does that even look like? And the self-worth of women is basically showing men that it is bringing productivity that is clean, that is clear, and that has integrity to it. There's nothing, and that is kind of like, oh, okay. And that really up levels a man's intelligence from, like, low intelligence of, like, controlling freak to to now another intelligence, another ball game that is more about how can I communicate myself, express myself as a man, as a, you could say, in a leader, just a man in the household, in a way that's going to bring clarity to my family, to my team, my community, and that's also going to bring a purposefulness to the people and to myself and to the people around me. Okay. So I just wanted to go into this discussion about sex because, again, the people who actually need to watch this probably will not watch this, about, the dense sex culture reality on this planet. But like I said, the angels sing and the universe rings its bells when we really do, as a woman, raise our self-worth and create those boundaries and get clear about what we want and be honest with it. Like, even on the first date, like, be honest. And a man who really wants and is ready, it's more important, it wants, is ready, and available to really have intimacy, will want to go with that. But a man who doesn't want intimacy, he's going to be like, he's not. So you, as women, think, if you want intimacy, which all women want intimacy, we want to share. And if that man, if he is, when you're honest with him and he's like, nah, then he's just not the guy. He's just not ready. He hasn't moved beyond his, you can say, his lower body. And that's okay, because there are many men who have moved beyond their lower body and are moving more into their heart and wanting intimacy and emotional experience and wanting to tap into their own, intuition and tap into a more meaningful, sort of purposeful experience on planet Earth. There's a lot of men who are tapping into that. You, just women, have to hold your ground, because as women, throughout time and time again, we have the tolerance of a saint. Men do not. Okay, men do not have the tolerance of the saint. They want what they want, and they want it now, or they want what they want and they don't get it. They're, raging, sort of thing. Okay, that's just kind of how men have been kind of bred in this patriarchal age. But women, we have tolerance, so just stand your ground. Use that tolerance that your ancestors have used for many generations, because as women, we don't want to live oppressed. Your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother had a huge tolerance for an ideology that literally promoted the oppression of women. So can you imagine having to do tolerance your whole life? You have so much wisdom you want to share. You have so much expression, creativity you want to move through your body, but you can't. You just can't. You know how much tolerance you would have as a woman to keep your composure in that sort of life? That's why women have the strength that men will never really know. Okay, men will never really know that strength, because we've had to tolerate so much. Because we are so expressive, we're so wise, and have to tolerate, like, that gripping hold on us. And so many people are still experiencing it today. Where we want to be the beauty of the wealth of the universe, but we can't, because it's blocked from us. It's just a great struggle to get that. So when it comes to a relationship right now on this planet, just hold your ground, hold your ground and allow your beauty to continue to move to higher and higher levels. Do what you can to develop your beauty to higher and higher levels. As women, be the spiritual, you can say, be that spiritual awakening, we could say, as women, because that's what we are, and that's what we're intended to be at this time on this planet, the spiritual awakening of humankind. So when we really become that, all men are going to be drawn to that. They're going to be like looking right at that, because men are realizing the old tricks and the old patriarchal ways of control is no longer working. Humanity isn't buying into it anymore. They're actually kind of like fed up and like, I'm done with that. No more grabbing you by the balls and saying no more, no more. So what's happening is they're like literally looking at women who are, these spiritually, awakening themselves beyond pain, suffering, attachment, codependency, limiting beliefs. They're looking at them for like, okay, they're the future, not this whatever I've been controlling in my establishing businesses and that kind of sort of lack of integrity thing. That's no longer working. So they're looking and they're like, okay, they're the future. Let me go towards them, because this is going nowhere. So let me go towards that. And I think that's what a lot going on with just the patriarchal age in general, is that the patriarchal age is like, okay, I've done this. It's not really working. I need an edge. I need a new edge. Like anything. If you want to sustain and maintain it, you got to always have a sense of edge, right? So the edge with patriarchal system is that it's starting to look towards these this spiritual awakening of women, because these women are starting to get creative. They're starting to get strategic in the way that they're forming communities, and those communities are forming global communities. And those global communities are even, again, we got those micro and then macro communities that are forming, where these women, all they're doing is just up-leveling their self-worth, and they're contemplating about education and how we can better educate our generation, and thinking about health and wellness, thinking about balance to, just the balance of the inner self. That's what a lot of this feminine energy is focusing on, is the balance of the inner self. Because we cannot even possibly try to handle the beast of what is outside of us as long as we cannot get a handle on the beast that is inside of us. There's no way possibly we could handle that it would be too overwhelming. It would be too heavy for us to be able to handle whatever it is that's outside of us that's very imbalanced, if we can't do it to the heavy beast that's inside of us. Okay, so, and I feel with the crossover of the patriarchal age into this new paradigm, I'll say, is more so about women sharing their spiritual awakening with men, and men having maturity to actually listen and to actually be receptive, because men have been trained not to be receptive to women's like voice of reason or their instinct, because women are seen as crazy and emotional, and crazy because they're emotional, and crazy because they have visions, and crazy because they're intuitive. So what's happening is men are starting to listen to women. Okay, not just listen to what they want and need and how can I provide for them, but it's more so listen to them in their inner emotions. And when a man can listen to a woman in her inner emotions, that's the man that's gonna like make a woman happy. A woman doesn't just want a man to tell her, what do you want and need I can provide, like very cold and attached. That's not gonna be fulfilling. A woman's gonna be like, this is not what I want. Okay. But a man who can listen to a woman's like inner self, because a woman is spiritually awakening, and she wants to share that with a man, and which and a man, he wants to share with her as well, like what he is what he is balancing out, and you know himself. But especially when a man can listen to that woman, the intimacy that even sexually a woman offers to a man is, it brings a man, it literally brings a man out of his sex reproductive lower body, you would say, and it brings him straight into the heart, straight into the heart, straight into the third eye. And that is what we call like, oh my gosh, like, okay, this is what it is. Okay, it should feel like the universe swaddling me. It should feel like the universe swaddling me with just warmth of honey and nectar, kind of thing. That's how poetic, and that's how mystic, and that's how majestic sex should be. It should not be, oh, I got a hot ride, I just rode that thing real quick. That's not fulfilling. I rode that thing real quick. Yep, I went down on the person and I did the licking and I felt they licked me. It's just like a pleasure that is just a pleasure, but it's not like a mind like opening sort of thing. Okay. So, yes, I feel like that's the main message that wants to come through me at this time to better help you all when it comes to this planet, the patriarchal age, and women and men. Because, like I said, we are going into a matriarchal, which is about, women becoming leaders. So we'll start to see a lot of women becoming leaders right now, especially my generation. Before, that was really not heard of. But it's going to be different this time in the way that it's not just going to be a bunch of women are high priestesses and men are the servants, and you do what I say now. No, it's more so about relationship between men and women that is going to be the greatest sort of success on this planet. Not some hot business, or I got the $1 billion for my oil company that is going to probably in the next couple decades be sort of down, it's going to plateau, okay, kind of thing. But no, the great accomplishment is going to be the relationship man and women has, the communication, the expression, the dialogue, and man and woman's ability to make corrective, constructive, and creative decisions and actions on during times of friction and tension. Instead of friction, tension between man and woman being this resentment man has towards woman, woman has towards man, or this agitation that never goes anywhere, that just continues until death, but to actually take that and use that to really push and pressure someone to be wise and to mature up. It's like you gotta mature up. Okay, and when if we can do that in our relationships, through man trusting himself, through going on his own pilgrimage of what it means to really be noble and protective and be a guardian over over women, over children, kind of thing, and women really raising their self-worth to be worthy of intimacy that is respectful and that is has integrity behind it. That relationship friction that it will happen, it's more so a challenge that's going to be met with growth rather than a challenge that's going to be met with just that resentment and agitation that just, it literally just goes like this. It doesn't go anywhere. Challenge is going to be met with growth. I want to grow. Not, I'm just going to bottle up my feelings because I'm scared to express myself and I don't want to say the wrong thing because I don't trust myself, and therefore the partner is bottling themselves up, they're getting defensive, they're backing off, and then where are we now? Okay, they've backed off, I've closed down, they've closed down, we're detached. This is not going to go anywhere. So part of really with friction is that you really have to be brave. And during challenge, any challenge you have in life, either it's a challenge of physical health, mental health, a challenge with even the economy, a challenge, whatever it is, you have to be brave. And the moment we detach as a society during a period of time that is challenging, which demands of us to step forward, is usually when we destroy something. That is usually when we can destroy a whole relationship. So just FYI, detachment actually can destroy a relationship. Okay, so when we have challenge, it's not so much of let me just, I'm feeling the heat, let me back up. Okay, sometimes you need to cool off, but it's not, I'm cooling off so that I can present myself, I can express, communicate myself, so I can bring love to the center, to the forefront, and let that love prevail. And that's the only thing I'm going to leave you guys with, is just let that love prevail. And if you have the bravery to let love prevail, you're going to become a human, a very soulful, very, very poised and good-mannered human. As if love can prevail, you're always going to be at the right place at the right time, with the whole universe behind you, in front of you, to the sides of you, supporting your maturity, supporting your evolution, supporting your prosperity, supporting your relationship, even if you feel like they're supporting you to grow within yourself, where you can present more of yourself to this relationship, not less because you detach and you close off, but to express more of the intimate part of yourself that wants to share, that to let somebody know like where you're coming from, who you are, where you've been, so that compassion within that connection can become the deepest sex experience, or just the deepest conversation experience that is really just going to grow you as a relationship and as an individual into a greater conversation. And I think that's what we yearn for in our partnership, to have that greater conversation that has energy, that has fire, that has water, it has emotion, it has air, it has deep thought, and it has earth, it has like a solid ground. That's what we want. We don't want conversation that's just shallow and the person's drained and we're drained and we're friction that we've been holding on for decades and can't let it go, and then we can't express ourselves and nothing's moving forward. We want to push ourselves in that challenge to get that fire, get that passion, when you speak, let them know like how much you care, like I really care. And then the emotions of like letting it out, just let out that emotions, vent it out in a way that is for emotional sort of like soothing, like I want to swaddle you with my emotions. And then the air, like letting that sort of corrective thought of how I can be better, how you can be better, how this can be better. Okay, non-judgment, not taking anything personally, non-judgment. Do never take anything personally. What you say, whatever someone says to you, take it as a challenge, a growth. And then we have that earth is like, I want to sit with you. I want to be solid with you. I want you to know that I'm sitting with you, that I'm secure in whatever it is I want to move forward in this discussion, and then love prevails. But it's again, it is not just, some people are so imbalanced. It's a pilgrimage, it can even be seen rough
sort of tumbling um, pilgrimage for a man to trust himself so that he can present himself, and then a woman to have self-worth so that she can share herself. A man needs to self-trust himself. He needs to have self-trust so he can present himself, okay, in a balanced way, okay, that's going to bring more intimacy and less sort of confusion. And a woman needs to have self-worth so she can share herself, so that a man knows what lights up the goddess, and so that he can give to the goddess, say. Yeah, so, yeah, that's it. Thank you.